Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Houston, Texas. It's time for Houston Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hello, Houston. Trisha Stetzel here, bringing you another episode of Houston Business Radio. Really excited to have a friend here. We were just reflecting on how long we've known each other. It's been years, and we continue to interface with each other in different functions. And so glad to have Keith Cothroll on with me today. He is a tax attorney in the the law firm of Keith A. Cothroll. He's a native Texan who grew up in El Paso, Texas, attended the University of Texas at Arlington. I know, hook 'em horns, right? For those of you who are out there, no gigums here, where he majored in political science. Mr. Cothroll graduated with a Doctorate of Jurisprudence from South Texas College of Law in 2005. He's worked over 15 years as a tax controversy attorney defending individual corporations in IRS audits and collection procedures throughout the country. And we're going to talk in more detail, but welcome to the show, Keith. So glad to have you. I'd like to just jump right into the middle of this and really have you talk about who you are, what makes you unique, and why in the world are you a tax attorney?
I started off out of law school doing criminal law and family law, and I got tired of putting people on the streets. I had no business being on the streets and giving kids to parents who needed to relax and take a parenting class and learn how to be a better co-parent. So after doing that for a couple of years, I said, hey, a friend of mine said, I need some help with IRS audits. And I said, I don't know anything about that. Taxes are confusing to me. She says, you'll learn. And so I did. And I was blessed to have a really good mentor, Clyde Miller, who really taught me the ropes as to what I needed to do and how things worked in the tax field and the controversy field. And really it was from there all the way forward. I like taxes because it's just money. And yes, it can be frustrating and scary when the IRS comes knocking on your door, but they just want your money. And unless you do something to go to jail, you're not going to jail. So let's talk about it and figure it out and get you going on the right path.
Yeah. All right. So accidentally fell into this profession. All right. That's a good story. I like it. Why don't we talk then a little bit, Keith, about how you market your business? I think there's a really cool video out there. You and I were talking about this before we started recording. Just rolling back into in your industry, when it comes to marketing your business, you can't just cold call people. It's not allowed. It's against the law. So in the type of industry that you're in, how do you market your business to the right clients?
Yeah, so the way that I do it in a few ways. I think what's really important in my business and other businesses potentially as well, really everyone, is you got to find out who your best referral partners are, because that's where that's where the rubber, to use the cliche, the rubber meets the road in a lot of ways, is if you find out these are the people who are going to have access to the people that you need, that you're going to be able to help. So for me, that's bookkeepers, that's CPAs, it's accounting firms, other attorneys. And so when I get to have relationships with them, then they know, hey, I've got someone that when my client has a problem, then I can send them over to Keith and he's going to take care of them. So that's a really large part of my marketing tools. I'm involved in various organizations as well, and one that we're part of together. And what I really like about those organizations is they did teach you how to network when you're doing one-to-ones with people. So it's really, I think when I first started thinking about being a business owner, I talked more about myself than I asking questions about what they did. So that's really good as any business owner, and this is for anyone that's listening, is when you're going out there and you're meeting these people that you're trying to connect with, make it about them almost as much, almost more than it is about you. And so that's really going to help build that rapport so that they feel like this person isn't talking to me just because they want my business. They really want to have a relationship here. So that's part of it. And then, I don't really do the meets and greets networking too much anymore as I used to. I don't have time having two girls and a teenage daughter who any free moment I have, I'm over at Target and getting whatever she needs. So it's whatever important thing that she'll die, she doesn't have it right now, type of thing. So, and then as far as the commercial, that's my next stage. This year was, people always ask me, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I fight the IRS. And I even last year wore my logo to an IRS conference, and he looked at me kind of funny and said, "It's just marketing. Don't worry about it." But anyway, I tell people I fight the IRS. So it started off as saying it, and then it went to having little boxing gloves, stress balls that had the IRS on it, to other merchandise, to my newest thing, which is a commercial in which I'm knocking out a 300-pound super muscular IRS agent and say, "Don't be afraid of them, because I'll take care of you." So very much in a comical sort of nod to personal injury attorneys in their commercials, and doing the same thing with tax.
I love that. I feel like as many years as I've known you, I see you as a real thought leader in this marketing space that you're in. You mentioned that you love to connect with CPAs and bookkeepers and other attorneys. Some might listen to this and think, well, why in the world would an attorney who's in the tax space want to connect with people who may be doing that work already? Can you describe the difference between the relationships that you build with people doing that specific business and what you focus on, Keith?
Sure. So from a CPA perspective, some will want to do what I do, but a lot of them don't, because it's just a lot of paperwork, a lot of time, and they can spend their time doing things that they want to do. So it's just a matter of a bandwidth for them. They'd rather someone else do it. There are certain tax attorneys that I work with as well, and so they're better at certain things, where there might be international tax, which I don't do, or partnership tax, which I don't do, but they don't want to mess with the stuff that I do. So it works that way. So a lot of where there can be overlap, but it still works, is because I take a piece of what they don't want to do from their caseload, and it just works out. And I give them tax returns or something like that, or other things that I can't do. It just goes vice versa.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You get to do what you like, they get to do what they like, and the client is happy, right? That's
Absolutely.
Really I'd like to draw all the listeners' attention to your social pages, because another space where I find you to be a thought leader is you started doing videos a long time ago and providing value. It was just what you were talking about, right? It's less talking about us and what we do and what we have to offer, and more about providing value to the people that we want to serve. And I think you do a fantastic job at that. So anybody who's listening, go out to Keith's social channels. Those are in the show notes. So it'll be real easy for you to click out there and find those and take a look. And I think his boxing commercial is out there too. So you can take a look at that. All right. On a serious note, Keith, are there any tax law updates that we should get out to the audience, speaking of value?
So I'll start off with somewhat tax law, but it's really Corporate Transparency Act. So we have until January 1st of next year, if you're an LLC, partnership, corporation, S corp, really anything that is not already heavily regulated, like a bank or a broker or something like that. There is some courts out there that are kind of going back and forth, where they're trying to say, well, there's some cases out there where they're trying to get rid of the requirement, but for right now, through FinCEN, you're going to want to file your beneficial ownership statement if you're at least 25% beneficial owner of any of those entities that I mentioned. So that's kind of a general thing. Of course, you have your employee retention credits. It just came out as before we got started. I got something today in which the IRS is going to send thousands of letters out to you if you did an employee retention credit. And especially if you did it from a promoter and you didn't do it through a CPA and you didn't do it through a tax professional, you're probably going to get a letter for it. And there were some programs in which they're going to allow you to kind of back out of some of that, but a lot of that's since retired. So now if you get the letter, then you're going to have to deal with that audit. There's been some other things as well that have come up. There's been a lot of promoters that have tried to attack people in different ways. They've attacked high net worth individuals by doing some charitable contributions and art donations that just aren't quite what you're allowed to do through trusts and other ways. So if you get a promoter trying to do an art donation, you want to be really leery of that. If anybody comes to you trying to do wellness credits for gym memberships and nutritional supplements, that's not a real thing. Fuel tax credits when you don't have a semi-truck or a farm is not a real it works for those people, it's not going to work for you. Something I get all the time, which is if you get a letter from the taxing authority, any taxing authority saying that they're going to put you in jail, then you could throw that letter away unless it comes from the IRS directly or from the comptroller or whatever state you're in, the Department of Revenue. Otherwise, you can throw them away. And then the other things that are coming up is large partnership audits is a really big deal now. The IRS is really going after those large partnerships and anyone that's making over $425,000. So that's if you're in that bracket, you can expect to get a lot more flack from the IRS. And I'm even getting a lot more audits. I'm getting a lot more revenue officers calling, even on small balances or $50,000 or less. So there's just a lot going out there. We were looking to see what was going to happen once they hired a bunch of people, and now we're starting to see what's actually happening. So,
okay, yeah, very interesting. So, if any of you heard something that sounds interesting, you need somebody like Keith to navigate the waters for you. I'm just saying, if you don't already have a good CPA or tax person, then Keith is your guy. Everybody needs one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. This is an interesting one, Keith. Tales from the tax crypt. What can you tell us? Give us a story.
All right. So I started using that in all my presentations that I do, just as a little aside, not really to fill in space, but just to let people know. People always want to hear stories. The most recent one, I've got a couple going on right now. One is against a large tax preparation firm in which we are arguing over whether or not my client has materially participated in the business. And as a matter of six figures of about $160,000, whether we get that refunded to us. If we're right, we have to pay it. If we're wrong. Another one I've got going on right now is a client who is a out-of-state real estate investor and got his property taken in a tax sale, and so now we're going to be able to back out probably that tax sale, but they basically sued the wrong person, the taxing authorities, and so we're working on getting all that straightened out. And it's been, it's already been picked up by another buyer. That's kind of a mess. The one that I really like to talk about, and these tales from the tax crypt, and the last one I'll talk about is why it's so important to have me on your side. So I had a local realtor. She got audited at $28,000 a miles because realtors drive a lot. And she was a high volume person. So she was all over the city, showing houses, driving around, doing open houses. So we showed the auditor, the revenue agent, the entire calendar and about a quarter of the listings, and he denied the whole thing. And I said, "Well, why are you denying it? We gave you the calendar. We have all the listings. We just don't want to show you, another 500 pages." Well, I just don't think there's enough here. And I said, "Well, what about the Cohen rule?" It's like, "What's that?" I said, "It's your rule, and so you ought to know what it is." And he said, basically, in a nutshell, it says that if you present enough information to the IRS, and if you don't have 100% of it, they should give you all of it. It's oversimplified, but that's really, what the rule is. And so he said, "Well, let me talk to my supervisor." And the next day he said, "Okay, you can have it." Well, if I wasn't there, then that $28,000 would have been a taxable event to that client. So that's really where I come in what I do for a living on the day to day is, if you got a collection matter, you pay what you can afford to pay. If you're being examined, you pay if you've been audited, you're probably going to pay something, but you're not going to pay more than you're supposed to. So that's really where I add a lot of value to people.
Yeah. Man, we all need you on our side. So many stories and so many things. So as we finish up today, Keith, tell me, like, if somebody's listening and they have a thing that they have a question about, could they call you? Like, what is that thing? So I've got a letter from the IRS. I get that. I get a letter from the IRS. I need to call Keith. What are the other reasons why I might engage you?
The IRS, and I guess I should mention property taxes as well, because I do that too. But you're going to call me really if it's something that your CPA doesn't know, and it's something that is a specific tax issue that's legal. What does the code say about it? That's really where I get into the black and white letter of the tax law and what you can and can't do. So that's where I can help out, whether it's crypto question or it's a matter of how do I do something. Then that's where I can come in. So where your CPA may not know the answer, I probably do, and then I can help you out in that. So.
I love that. And oh, by the way, for the listeners, Keith also likes to meet CPAs and bookkeepers and other attorneys. I'm just saying.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Keith, thank you so much for being on the show today. Anything else that you'd like folks to know? And please make sure you tell us the best way to contact you.
Yes, and I appreciate being on this Houston Business Radio podcast with you as well, Tricia. Thank you for your time, and always glad to share what I do with others and in your audience. And I think the easiest way to reach out to me is 832-402-4440. I can say in my email, it's basically the first initial of my name, my last name, at Cothroll, just COTHlaw.com.
Fantastic. Thanks, Keith. I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well so folks can find you very quickly. Again, I appreciate you being here. It's been a pleasure getting to play on the podcast or on the show today with you. And I know that we'll interact in some form over the next several months because we always seem to run into each other after all.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. That's all the time we have for today's show. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Houston Business Radio. Until then, stay tuned, stay inspired, and keep thriving in the Houston business community.